Record. All right, so this is talking about ZipForms, the new templates, and just in general, how to use the e-signing software. Just gonna walk through some of that from start to finish to see, just really so that we can hopefully help people access the software. I always say that I am not the best trainer on the software. Really, they have an entire staff of people that are trainers on these specific softwares. So sometimes going in and doing the YouTubes and the different training on their help screens are going to be way better than me going through it. But what we're going to go through is the more front specific to make sure that everybody's on the same page with that. Cool. All right, so I'm going to start with sharing my screen. And I'm going to start just at the very beginning. How do I log in? How do I get in? So I normally go to arlingtonrealtor.com to start and then hit this little Netris matrix login at the top. I put in my password to get to the dashboard. You don't have to do it this way, but to me, it's just part of my routine. So, and to me, anything that we can do to make this routine and easier is good. So anyway, so I'm going to hit matrix and open that up. And then I'm also going to hit ZipForm down here and open up ZipForms Plus. Again, you can go to just ZipForms Plus login online. That's totally fine too. It's just, this is just the way that I'm used to doing it. I go to this top part, the ZipForm login plus in the top left corner. Nope, that's right, top right corner here. And then your username should be first name dot last name. Okay, if you're logging in with some sort of other login that's like has your nerds number in it or has something that's not first name dot last name, then you may be logging into just your NAR profile, not your front profile. And so you won't be able to see the templates that I'm putting in here for you. And see like this part down here where it says sign in with your NAR username and password. If you do that, you won't be able to see the templates either. So go to your name or first name dot last name. If you don't know the password on it, hit forgot password and it'll send you a reboot for that. And if that doesn't work too, then call me and we can make sure that you get in. Cool. Okay, so then when we come into transactions, it's going to have all the different transactions that really you've ever done. This really is your workspace. So if you want to clean it up and make it where only the properties that you're working on currently are there, that's totally fine. I honestly just leave them all there. I don't ever go in and change them from active to not or whatever. Probably would be better if I did, but that's why I've got so many here. So however you feel like you want to organize your space and do that, go for that. So if I hit new here on the transactions, and then I'm gonna walk us through just like we're making an offer. Okay, so I'm gonna hit new purchase or offer. And then I start with a property address here. So I'm going to pull an address off of here. Let's doing this one. Let's do 3901 Plum Vista Place. So I'm going to click on this one. This is the one I'm going to do. I'm going to double click on that MLS number and I'm going to copy the MLS number. And so then I'm going to go in here and just put in the address 3901 Plum Vista Place. And so you'll see that like an address pops up here. I'm going to click that. And then I hit this MLS Connect. I don't know if y'all have used MLS Connect before, but it just goes ahead and puts in the information about the house into it. So that's where I copied the MLS number. I already have it copied. I'm going to hit include property photo and find. And then it's going to pull, well, if I have my right MLS ID. And then it should pull in the information about the house. And then I'm going to hit use listing. Okay, so it's got a little picture of the house here. It should have some basic information about the house in. I'm going to hit residential and then I'm going to come down to my templates. And now we have two templates. I renamed them this morning when I recreated them with the right form. So it's FrontREC buyer rep package and FrontREC listing package, the exact same as we had before, just a little bit modified to get as trued up as possible. So I'm going to hit this FrontREC buyer rep package and hit save. Does anybody have any questions so far on that? Or things y'all are doing different that may be easier than the way that I'm doing it? Okay, so as of right now, it's going to start us with this summary page. I don't love using the summary page, possibly just because I'm old school. You may love using the summary page and it may be way easier for you. So whatever works, fine. You can modify things on the summary page and it'll modify it on all the pages after that. Instead, I like just going into the documents directly. So I go in over here, I start with the IBS and then I just work my way through the documents. So I'm going to say that this is Spencer is the agent and I'm going to buy it. I might let him stay sometimes. Okay, so I've got my IBS done. It automatically saves. You don't really have to hit the save after each thing. And then I'm going to do Amy M. Cornell. And then it'll automatically pull up the address too, even on the buyer rep if you want it. You don't have to do it that way. And then I'm going to put in my Gmail account just so that we can kind of see how it looks when signatures go up. So I've got my contact information in here. Market area is Viridian plus surrounding, maybe. And then I'm going to have it go from today through, what do y'all think? Maybe the end of July. It's hard for me right now because everything's taken a while on the buy side. So I think that's good. So really from here, I don't have to fill out anything else on the buyer rep form, but if you want to modify something else on here, you totally can. So you could go down and change it from an intermediary. You could go in and change the broker fees. I have it defaulted now to, instead of a blank transaction fee, to just 0. So if you want to charge a transaction fee, just go in and change that. I just had lots of blanks coming through. And so I thought it would be better to have that. And then we have all of these addenda. They're already all pre-selected. However, I did add some language and special provisions to say some addenda in paragraph 16 may not apply to every property under representation. So what I'm talking about there is like lead-based paint, right? If I'm a consumer that's buying in Viridian, I probably don't have to worry about lead-based paint. However, for me as an agent, I don't necessarily want to think about removing lead-based paint, adding it back in, because this buyer rep agreement is going to survive me making this offer on this one house and then potentially one in Bedford right across the train tracks that was built prior to 1978, right? And so I'm just going to have this language in here that says, hey, this is good for this property and potentially others. And so that's why some of these addenda may not apply for that specific property, but they go for kind of everything. Okay. Any questions on any of that? And y'all know I love having all the addenda because they were created by who? Attorneys for us, right? Attorneys for Texas Realtors have created all these addenda. I know it seems like overkill, but we're going to show during the signing process that really it's just click, click, click. The consumer gets the whole package. It's just the same package every time. That's the way that I do it. You don't necessarily have to do it that way. I'm just telling you from a risk reduction perspective, that's my preference. Cool. Any questions on any of that? Okay. All right. So that's all I have to do on the buyer rep. Really, that's all I have to do on this whole section, all the way from information about brokerage services, all the way down to wire fraud warning. So from my perspective, the buyer rep is already done. Now I'm moving down into the offer. Okay. So I'm going to come down here into the 1 to 4 family residential contract. And the reason why I have all of this in one package rather than a buyer rep package and then an offer package is because now this is already started and is already halfway ready for me. It already has my client's information and now I can just continue to fill it out. All right, so seller name, it does not automatically come over from MLS, even though we connected it. I wish it did. And I don't love it. Y'all know, y'all have heard me say this before. I do not love it when an agent puts C tax on there. To me, I just don't understand why they wouldn't be very clear and specific with exactly how they want the contract to read so that way we make sure there's no problem. But they didn't do it that way. So this is okay. So it looks like Christopher K. Seymour. I'm going to go copy that and put this back in here and correct it to be in the right order. So Christopher K. Seymour, Amy M. Cornell is going to buy it. This is the house that we're going to do. And then I go back into Matrix and I'm just kind of constantly toggling between the two screens so that I can make sure that I've got everything in here. So it looks like it excludes Jeep holders in the garage and hanging storage shelves on the ceiling of garage. Okay, so I'm going to copy that, paste it in, make sure that the buyer is okay with that. And then sales price. So it looks like this one is selling at $415. I'm going to make them an offer they can't refuse at $450. And so they have this little calculator option. And so I can put in 450 times 20%. And so that means my down would be 90. And then I'm going to do this times 8. You could do the same thing on your phone if you want to, and, you know, calculate it this way. But so now I know I need my down to be 90 and my finance portion to be 360. Down would go first, and then 360 here. And so then that gives me my 450. Okay. Any questions on that? All right. No leases that I know of, no mineral leases that I know of. So I'm just going to go down here to earnest money and option fee. So they have asked for this to close at Old Republic in Mansfield. I go out and pull the actual address rather than just put that in. So Old Republic title, Mansfield, Texas. And so then the Google's going to tell me this is the address. So I copy that and paste it in. And then I normally will also put in, their phone number. So I'm going to have this at Old Republic title. And I'm going to put up $5,000 of earnest money. And how much option should we put in? 500? Let's try 500 for 5 days. See how it goes. Okay. All right. So I'm going to put in all the title information, 500 or 5,000 earnest with 500 option. And when my client or me who is buying this goes to pay that, I'm going to pay that whole 5,500 to Old Republic. Companies like Old Republic are using Zochem. However, there are lots of other title companies out there that are using different electronics delivery systems. So you'll just have to call and talk with whatever title company that it is about what their process is for that. Okay. Or like Andrew and I were talking about earlier, is anytime the buyer client wants to go ahead and present a cashier's check for that, that's going to make it cleaner and easier just in case they need to terminate or something like that, to make sure that they get their funds back as quickly as possible. All right. So I'm still going to ask the seller to pay for the title policy on this one since I'm paying.
Hey, Amy. Yeah. Hey, sorry to interrupt. And I wanted to, don't make fun of me for my voice cracking right now. I wanted to piggyback that a little bit. So y'all don't forget, I mean, or just keep this in your head as you're now delivering earnest money and option to the same place. You know, you can do it. It gives you the option on the contract to do earnest money to the title company and then a separate check still made out to the title company, or you can combine it into one. I want y'all to understand that, and this is going to be on the listing side, especially the listing agents, that y'all have this. If you're thinking, make sure you set the expectations up front with your seller, that if you've told them, hey, we have an option fee for $500, we've always told them lately that that's coming to you directly. It's yours. Go cash it. It's your money. It's not going to be that anymore. Now we actually have to go to the title company and request that they go ahead and release that money to our sellers. Okay. So keep this in mind, that I would start setting expectations and asking your buyers agents to please have their buyers drop a cashier's check for this money, to not do a personal check for the option fee, because now, will they agree to it? I don't know. Hopefully we can start setting these expectations so everybody's on board with a wire of all of it, or a cashier's check to cover everything, earnest money option as well. Because if they back out in day one after an inspection and you're wanting to get that $500 option fee for your clients, the title company, if it was a personal check, will not be able to immediately release that option funds to your seller. Okay. They will have to let that personal check season in their account for anywhere up to 10 days. Which means if you set the expectation up front, I've said that if you don't set the expectation to your sellers up front to know that it could take as long as 10 days for you to actually receive that $500 option fee, or whatever that option fee is, then they're not going to be very happy with you when you tell them, hey, I know you're out of contract now. They just terminated because the inspection wasn't great. Oh, and by the way, you're going to get that $500, but it's going to take another 9 days before you can get it. So set the expectations well with that. Try to ask the buyer. I like to coach and train buyers across the board to deliver a cashier's check. If you've got it, just go pay the extra $10, whatever it is, get a cashier's check, as opposed to using a personal check. And the nice thing for the buyers to explain it that way is that way you can get your earnest money back pretty quick, as opposed to having to wait for it to be in there. And on the listing side, that way they can actually get that option money. If they decide, if they are backing out, you'll get the option fee quickly. If they don't back out, then you can just take the option fee, let it sit at title, credit it to them at closing if they decide to, and not worry about that. Okay. I just wanted to give you some of the best practices on coaching and setting expectations really well for your clients.
Good. All right, so I'm going to have that the seller pay for the title policy on this one. And they have provided a survey on transaction desk for it, but what are they missing? They did not include the T47 affidavit. So, really the way that this reads is that they have now, the way I put it up is 5 days that they can deliver not just the survey, but also the T47. If they don't deliver that, then they're going to buy us a new one. But if there's a problem with that survey and they delivered it correctly, then the buyer would pay for it. So that's just how I'm writing this one. One of the things that I did change to the form was this number on 6D is if we had this in as 3 days per JC Johnson's recommendation, we changed it to 5. So we'll have that as 5 days there. You can modify it if you want to, but that's basically saying, hey, after the buyer gets in the commitment, the survey, any exception documents, then they have 5 days to submit any objections to the seller to potentially have cured prior to closing. Okay, membership in a homeowner association. This one is, so we're going to need to have the HOA addendum. I'm going to go just scroll all the way down now just to check that to make sure that I don't forget it. All right, so I have HOA, seller's disclosure. I have the seller's disclosure here, and they have already included this as well. So I'm going to, oh yeah, hold on. For some reason they didn't do, normally that isn't going to come up. Normally it's just going to let you into the document directly, but for some reason they did something different on it. Okay, so I actually can't access their seller's disclosure on there. I don't know why, but somehow the way they entered it in transaction desk wasn't right. So it's somehow making me go in and do that. Most of the time it's going to be like this, where in transaction desk, you go in and pull it and the form will pop up. From there, I'm going to want to download that onto my desktop or something like that. And I'm just going to pretend this is the, well, I'll have it as the disclosure relationship. That's fine. So I'm going to download it, and then I'm going to get into ZipForms, and I try to do this when I hit the seller's disclosure thing, so that if I have received the notice, that I make sure that I don't forget it. So I'm going to go ahead and back and then add a document. I'm going to add that document that I just saved to my desktop, the disclosure of relationship with residential service contract. I'm going to hold that open. And so now this is in here. And so I can include that when I go to sign the document. On the residential service contract, since I do not have the seller's, on the regular contract, since I don't have the seller's disclosure on this one, I'm going to hit that I have not received the notice and that I want to get it within 2 days. Okay. I am going to say that we accept this property as is. I'm going to put in that we want $439 towards a home warranty. I have this defaulted to that. There are no agents that are a party to the transaction, but since I am, I would say something like buyer is licensed Texas real estate agent. All right, and then closing we'll do in 30-ish days. This one they asked for oh no, they didn't ask for a lease back. Okay, so then I'm going to have it at closing and funding. I'm not going to ask for any closing costs. And then I'm going to come down and make sure that my buyer's email is added into the notices paragraph. Then I'm going to make sure I have all my right addenda. So I'm going to have my third-party financing, the mandatory membership in an HOA, and then the one about the home warranty. Where is that one? No, I guess I still don't have it on the list. Sorry. Residential service contract addenda. Okay, and really I don't have anything else that I want to add, although I could go ahead and check that I want to add the addendum concerning right to terminate due to appraisal because I'm making an offer that's 35,000 over a list. And so maybe I want to go ahead and offer them that additional 35,000 as a guarantee. All right, I'm going to scroll down here. And so it does automatically have in our contact information for the brokerage. We just put in your specific information. So the agent name, team name, if there is one, email address, and phone number. I don't know why it doesn't automatically come over from the IBS, but it doesn't. And then this listing broker information, it does not automatically come over. So you'll need to just, what I do is just copy and paste. This is the most annoying part. And I wish I was really hoping with this latest deal that they would have fixed it, but they just have not yet. So I don't know when, if ever, we're going to get that in a ZipForms environment. So just takes a minute to go over. Does anybody have any questions while I'm doing this part? So luckily, since this is the longest part of it, it's still not that long to do. And sometimes it's easier just to copy stuff rather than, or to write stuff rather than copy and paste, but it just depends on what the situation is. So. But we do want to make sure that we've got it in as close to right as possible every time. Okay, so I'm done with all that information. I already have it pre-filled in down here that it would be 3% of the final sales price. And then I don't need to do anything with that 11th page. Now we have 11 pages on the contract. All right, so I'm going to go back. I need to fill in my third-party financing addendum. I'm going to do conventional financing for, and I forgot, what did we say? The 450, I think it was 360, huh? 80%. Yeah, so 360. So I'm going to do a loan amount at 360, doing full in 30 years at 3.25 with the origination not to exceed 1%. And then I'm going to take out this buyer approval. It is auto-filled in there, but I'm going to take it out and say that this property is not subject to buyer approval just to make the offer a little stronger. So I'm going to add that. And then I'm going to go over here to this addendum concerning right to terminate. I'm going to click this one. I'm going to say we have a partial waiver. And as long as the appraisal hits 415, then I'll still close on it at 450. Okay. All right, so the only other addendum that we're going to use is the mandatory membership in a homeowner association, and that one is already pre-filled out for me. I didn't have to make any changes to it to make it say what I wanted it to say, but I can always pop in, double check it, and not, oh, and actually I caught that, hey, I should put in the HOA information up here. So I may go ahead and copy this and put it in there. Okay, so for any questions at this point? Okay, so if I want to send these documents now to my buyer for review, I can quickly go in and select all the forms that I want to send. And so I might want to send the buyer rep separately. So I could have those and then say, I could click these and then say send via email. I'm going to send them to my buyer one. And I'm going to say Cornell buyer rep for review. And then let me know if you have any changes. Thanks. And then if I wanted to record a BombBomb video, you could click here and add a BombBomb video to your deal as well. Okay, this is going to have everything in one form. So it's not going to be 18 different attachments. It's just going to have the one buyer rep package. Okay. I'm going to send this. I have this set to send through Microsoft because I want it to come through to my Outlook, not just stay in the ZipForm world. So I'm going to send, and actually for some reason I have to do that twice in order for it to work most of the time.
Is there a signing order on that?
Do what?
I know you have to be careful about the signing order. Does everybody know about that?
Yeah, so right now we're just sending it for review. So I want to make sure that I've sent it in just a PDF first, so that way if there's any questions, they can send them back to me, and then I'll send it for signature after that.
Right, because that messed
Yes. Yeah, you're totally right. So, which we can go ahead and I'll show you what it looks like to send. Oops. To send for signature. And so I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing. I'm going to select these and then do e-sign. And I'm going to do new. Oh, actually, I guess I didn't have to select them there. I'm going to select them here. Hey, these are all the documents that I want to go in that e-sign package. All right, and then close. So I have everything in here. I'm going to call this Cornell Buyer Rep. Hit next. And then I'm going to select that I'm going to sign as the buyer. And then I'm going to set up Spencer as the broker or agent to sign that side. For some reason, and y'all probably, I don't know why this is like this, but ZipForms doesn't have the selling agent as the agent to sign on the buyer rep on there. So I'm going to hit close here. So what Grady was saying is it's very important because you have this signing order here. You may not want to have a signing order. So I just usually uncheck that. And so that means everybody's going to get the documents at the same time. Otherwise, if you don't, you're like, why didn't you get that? Hey, why is it taking so long to get there? And anyway, just have it go through. I don't ever change anything on the cybersecurity. I guess you could if there was somebody that was really sensitive to that, but to me, it's not really necessary. And then I'm going to hit next, and it's going to pull up the actual documents for me to look at and make sure that I don't need to add signatures anywhere. It is, you know, so this is the best option that I found as far as pre-filling your initials in here, but there are still some that will not pre-fill the initials, and it's any forms where there is an opportunity for the buyer or seller to sign the same form. So like the wire form, for example, it is set up for either a buyer or seller, but it's not something that it necessarily says specifically which one is only on that form. So that's why they say, oh, well, we couldn't possibly go ahead and put initials on there because we aren't sure who you're representing, I guess. I think it's the same way as the IBS, but they figured that one out. So we'll see what happens long-term on it. So you can see on the IBS, it's already set up for the buyer me to sign it. So it has that AMC already in there. Same way on the buyer tenant rep agreement, it has Spencer as the buyer agent, or sorry, the broker or agent. And then it has me in as the client. Already has all the same forms that were already just sent to me. Now it is, to me, you know, fairly intuitive from a broker perspective to add initials or whatever I need to on here. So like, for example, this one on the clue report and all of that, if I wanted the client to sign it, I could just drag and drop a signature right there. I could do the same thing on this form. I could drag and drop, and I could get that done relatively quickly. If I want Spencer to sign it too, I could drag and drop and have him there. So it shouldn't take a lot of time to get it done. Then you hit next, and then it'll go ahead and push it out. If you want to customize the invitation or the information that they're seeing, hit that, and then it will give you the option to customize to yourself or to the agent. So I might want to say Cornell Buyer Rep for signature, and then just, I don't know that he needs to see that. So Cornell Buyer Rep. Okay, so then when I hit save, and then when I hit send invitations, then it will go ahead and send what I just sent as far as those marked items. It will send over to both of us. So on my email right now, I'll show you the first one that I got was this, yes, Cornell Buyer Rep for review. And so this said, Amy Cornell has sent you a document. Let me know if you have any changes. And then it had, like I said, all of these, all of the buyer rep, the buyer rep, the 43 pages, all as one document that they could get into and look at and have any questions or call us with, or they could not. It doesn't really matter to me. Most of the time, our clients don't actually call with any questions, but occasionally they do. And so we have it very clear, you know, again, if I ever had to get up in front of the judge and he said, hey, you should have been more clear with that client of what they were signing. I'm like, well, how could I have been more clear? Like I sent that to him via PDF. I included a bomb explaining it to him, anyway, so I really feel like it's a pretty clear process as far as what they're getting from a consumer side, especially when we do send it out for review and then for signature. Again, just like me including all of those documents in the buyer rep, that is a risk management tool that I use. It is not something that is required for front. What is required for front is that if you're going to take a BAC, so a buyer agent commission per MLS, that we have a buyer rep agreement signed. So however you want to do that is totally fine. It's just recommended and best practice versus not. Okay, so I am waiting for my e-sign to hit. So this just came up. So it says, hey, I got a signing invitation. And so this is just what the consumer side will see, right? And so I'm going to start signing. Hopefully Spencer got his too, and he's starting signing soon too, so we can see the final document. All right, so it says it's preparing a 43-page document with 10 signing blocks. And then it's coming up, hold on. All right, and so I'm going to use that signature. I'm going to accept this. And then I just click through as the consumer, click, click, click. Sign. I'm going to complete my signing. All right, and so then I'm totally done. So it's going to give me an opportunity to create an account or something like that. I don't have to do that. That would just be extra. So did you get yours? Okay. So Spencer's signing right now as the agent. And so then we'll get the final version with the PDF version of all of that. And so it will come through in a couple of different ways. It'll come through on back in ZipForms under this package that we sent. It will show a final version signed, but I'll also get a version in, or a link to it in my email where I can quickly link to that property and then send it to somebody else if I needed to. Obviously on a buyer rep, I don't necessarily need to send it to somebody else, but on an offer, I may need to go ahead and get that sent off to a seller or to a listing agent. Any questions so far about that? And let me show you one other process on the SkySlope side. So we also have SkySlope as a digital signing platform that's also included in what you get for with Front. And so your username should be your email address. So hopefully you know how to get into that. But the DigiSign down here in the corner, which actually yours might look a little bit different, but there is a DigiSign block on that front page when you go in. If you hit that, you can create a new envelope, and then you could create one with no property to start, because I don't know if that if I as the buyer am going to get that one or not. And so I could create or I could add in my offer here. So I'm going to save that one that I had prepared earlier, the PDFs forms, and then I'm going to add it in over here. Okay, so it's going to go ahead and load, and I have the opportunity of choosing a template here. So when I'm doing something like a buyer rep, it would be fairly easy for me to create a template for a buyer to sign a 43-page package, because my buyer rep usually is going to be consistent. Where I run into trouble is on an offer, because my offer may include a third party, it may not. It may include a residential service contract, it may not. It may have two people signing, it may not. And so it is a little trickier on that to really create templates on this side, or that's what I've found. I don't know if y'all have found something easier to do on it, but that's just been my struggle with the DigiSign platform. I really like it. I think it's a little prettier from a consumer experience, and I like pretty. So I have been using this more, but I'm trying to train myself more on how to use the ZipForms, since it is more supported. Okay, let's keep walking through the DigiSign though, so I can show you kind of what this looks like. So I'm going to add myself as a Gmail as a purchaser, and then I'm going to add Spencer as a broker, I guess. We'll see. whatever. All right, so then I'm going to hit next. So I've got these two people. It doesn't, I don't think it sends it in order. Y'all might know. I don't know. I don't think it sends in order, but it doesn't pre-fill in any of my blocks. Okay, so on this one, I've got to go through and drag and drop the same way that I would have drag and dropped in DocuSign. And so if you're using DocuSign too, it's going to be the same situation on this. So I can put in initial, then I click my date sign. And so now I've got a date. And then I would come down here and I need to do initials again. I'm gonna do initials for the client there. And then I'm going to do initials for Spencer here. And I'm going to scroll down and do initials for Spencer. So it doesn't take that long to do it, but it's not super fast. And especially not super fast when you're like, I don't know, in the car doing it, not driving, but even like with somebody else driving, or I was sitting out by the campfire the other day doing this. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know that I love all these dragging and dropping of boxes. It's like, again, it's not the end of the world. But I just had hoped that the templates would be easier to use on this. Okay, so I'm not going to do the rest of the document. I'm going to go ahead and hit send and say, hey, this is the Cornell fire rep for signature, just so that we can see it both ways and see kind of how it comes through to the client. Okay, our signing is complete on the ZipForm side. So I just want to show you what that comes in and looks like. So it's got a copy of our signed documents. I can go here and then it'll pull up all the documents that we just signed, all 43 pages, and it's ready to go. So I can either download it onto my desktop or into SkySlope or something like that, or I can leave it here however you want to do it on that. Any questions on that? Okay, so we've already gotten our request to sign on from DigiSign. So this is how it comes over. It says, hey, Amy Cornell sent you a document to sign. I can review and sign. I pick my prettier signature situation and then I start. It's really, you know, like I said, it's just a little bit prettier. It's not like it's that big a deal. It's just a little bit. So I'm going to click, click, click. I complete signing. Did you get it too?
I already did it.
All right, Spencer already did it. And so it should come over in just a second. Let's see. There it goes. Okay, so all signed, view now. So I click and it comes up with this, and then I can again click on the PDF. I can either save it to my desktop and open it that way, but either way, I've got the same situation of the 43 pages signed. It's just a different way to go about it. Again, DocuSign is an alternate product. Loop is an alternate product. And Transaction Desk is an alternate product. There are lots of other products out there that we aren't providing as part of the front package, but that if you prefer to do those are fine too. We really just are giving you this as two e-signing solutions to help with that, and with the templates that are available on ZipForms, so that way you have a start basis for your file rather than having to start from nowhere. Andrew?
Yeah, so to just to kind of add to that really is the fact of we're not forcing y'all to use one process or another, that everybody kind of has their own way if they like to do things. If you like the what I call kind of clunkiness of digital ink off of ZipForms, then use that. And then you're going to have to take that and upload it into our transaction management, the compliance part, which is SkySlope. If you're okay with taking a little bit extra time to drag and drop your signature lines over on SkySlope, and then at that point it might be a little bit easier because then it's already in SkySlope for the transaction management side. And we are continuously adapting, y'all. I mean, Amy and I met on this several times this week already. We talk about this on a basis. We go through our own individual training on the operations and brokerage side to see, Okay, has anybody upgraded a little bit? Has DocuSign got better with this? Has DigiSign or Digital Ink gotten more involved and added the automatic thing? So we're always doing that on y'all's behalf, y'all in the back end, just to say if we can grow it and we can adapt a little bit more, some of the as technology gets better and easier for some of this, and the clunkiness can go away, then we'll adopt those things into the front real estate on the compliance side and the transaction side and make those easier for you guys. So we'll kind of keep that going as we go on there. If y'all come across anything or any suggestions you want to just kind of add in or whatever it is, you just want some thoughts to express, y'all reach out to me direct and let me know.
And then keep in mind on the SkySlope side that you do have this email that's created once you start the transaction, that you can include that email on like your ZipForm side. If you want to include that when you're sending your client the email, then it will automatically go into SkySlope as you're loading documents in. So to me, that's a great, tool to get files back and forth without having to download them a whole bunch of times. The other thing that we didn't talk about in the transaction was that I do have, I have changed up some of the addenda that are added on this contract portion back. So what I had done always on here was that I had every addenda that was listed on the actual body of the contract. So it has seller financing addendum, it has loan assumption addendum, it has all these things that really we're never using. And so I did go in and take out a lot of those and left what I felt like were the most germane addenda in here. If you want to, like, let's say on Plum Vista, you're like, okay, I'm in here, I know we're making an offer on Plum Vista now. I know we are not going to need the addendum for oil, gas, and other minerals. It is super easy to go in and just delete that out. And so that way, then you don't have to have that muddying up your screen if you don't want it on there. So don't feel like just because they're part of the template, like they forever and always have to be part of your transaction. This is the starting point, and then you can add and detract as you need to really make it fit for what you want to do. Same thing with any of the terms that we're putting in on the templates. Don't feel like, oh, Amy said this has to be 5 days, this has to be 14 days. That's not. I'm really just helping you to start with a starting point so that way, if you're, in here and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to put for a number of days for review of the survey, I don't know what to put for a number of days on the third party financing or something, that we have something in there just to make sure that we don't accidentally get an executed offer in with blanks. So that's really what I'm trying to prevent there, is by having these pre-filled in as much as possible. Any questions or things that y'all don't like about the template process or any of that?
Amy?
Yeah.
So you said something about the email on ZipForms. You said to add it where so that it would automatically go into there?
Yeah. So so let's say like I'm going to send this IBS over and I'm going to send it via email. I could go in and put in, I don't have to put in one of these. I could just put in, whoops. Hold on. Like, so I could copy this email and put it in. So it's the street name number at skyslope.com. If I haven't, if I would have to start a file in SkySlope first so that I know which file to attach it to, but
Okay.
then I could put in something like IBS and it would send, and then it would get to my SkySlope folder. So that way, then I could just tag it. Now I still have to go in and tag it on my checklist, but it'll be waiting for you in the documents section.
Okay. Wow, that's actually great.
And if you do a signing in order and just create a person, I just put SkySlope or something where it automatically will email the signed document into that folder too.
Oh, okay.
Person, you can do that. But
As a CC.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it. I didn't know about that. That's gonna speed up the process.
Good. Yeah. And
Thank you.
for me, I treat it as a dual redundancy, like, which maybe that's not even the right word. Is dual redundancy redundant by nature saying that? I don't know. Anyway, but so now I've got it all in ZipForms, and I treat ZipForms as really like my kind of a little more messy space. Like I can go in and make changes and I can do, and really it's just me looking at that. you know, nobody from a compliance perspective is coming into my ZipForms to look at that. Then once I get things signed, then I want like the final prettier version to be in SkySlope, right? So that's where my compliance check is happening. I make sure that I've got everything signed and ready, and you know, any, you know, amendments that I've tried for and didn't work or whatever, I don't necessarily have to go in and clean them up out of this, because this was kind of my work area. And then SkySlope is my final, like, hey, this is my final archived. I want to make sure that I don't miss any of these documents. And so that's where too, in SkySlope, you know, it's got a lot of extra things in here, disclosure documentation, reports, and that kind of thing. All of these you're going to see are if applicable. But so it's not something that you're required to put in, but it can really, to me, only help you to go ahead and preload as much information as possible into your SkySlope checklist, so that way, if you get called on a lawsuit 2 years from now and you're like, I don't know, I've done 10 deals, 15, 30 deals since then, I can't remember what happened, you'll have it all ready to go there. And so if your laptop crashed, if something happened, you know, you've got everything there in that secure place just in case you need it. So there's not going to be like, and I'll tell you, even from a compliance perspective, I'm not going through and checking and saying, ooh, I can't believe they used this inspector, like downgrade them or anything. There's not really any of that. This is all just going through to try to help. And I was telling Andrew the other day, like a lot of when I go through and check files on here, sometimes I'll mention something, especially if it's something that I've seen once or twice, or I've seen several agents come up with like, oh, we're missing this or we're missing that. I'll mention something, but a lot of times I'm really just trying to make sure, was it basically right? Were we okay? Do I see anything that would put you at a risk of a lawsuit or anything like that? And as long as it isn't, then we're good. Like, let's go ahead and get it closed. It's just that double check. All right, any other questions or concerns about SkySlope or Digital Ink or ZipForms? So let me just go over then a couple of things. Actually, I'm going to stop the recording here and then